If it's Tuesday, so just how never Trump are you? Meet the ticket of ex-Republican governors who think they are the answer. Tonight, the Libertarian ticket joins for their first joint interview, Johnson and Weld. This is MTV Daily, and it starts right now. Good evening. I'm Chuck Todd in Washington. Welcome to MTV Daily. First of all, a few programming notes. Hillary Clinton is running late with Chris Hayes. The minute she does call in, we are going to show you Chris Hayes' interview with Hillary Clinton, but everything is running a little bit late. Just want to get you up to date on that. But let's talk about this wild day, as usual, in American presidential politics. What we saw earlier today from Donald Trump could best be described as press conference porn. Trump's morning press conference was splashed all over the airwaves all day long today. And he ripped the press who cover him, furious at all the scrutiny he received over millions of dollars that he believes he was always going to give to these veterans' charities. Of course, the press corps fired back. It was a spectacle. But let's be real. This dogfight with the press today is not the most important story of the day, of the week, of the month. It's just simply happening today with his face on it. The more important story probably took place over the weekend. In an environment ripe for a third-party challenger, we now actually have a viable third-party ticket, the most viable on paper by resume that you could come up with, arguably, since Ross Perot, if not before that. And by the way, this ticket is the only viable never-Trump ticket that can get on all 50 states. It's former New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson and his now running mate, former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld. They'll join me in a moment for their first joint interview since locking up the Libertarian Party nomination. But because of the Trump circus, there has been a constant buzz from never-Trump conservatives. People like Bill Kristol, who about recruiting a third-party challenger to knock out Trump in November. Kristol was at it again this weekend, suggesting that conservatives have found an impressive independent candidate. Well, it doesn't matter. That person can't be on the ballot in 40 states, let alone 50, unless that person ends up being Gary Johnson and Bill Weld. They're the only ticket left that can go 50. Folks, Kristol is now basically trolling the media, conservatives, and Trump by continuing this months-long tease. Bottom line, if you're really never Trump, you have two choices: Hillary Clinton or Gary Johnson. This weekend, Johnson and Weld were officially chosen as the Libertarian ticket after an intense, bizarre, and contentious convention in Florida. They're being touted as the party's strongest ticket ever, and on paper, by resume, they are. Two former Republican governors. They will likely be on the ticket in all 50 states, and they are competing against the two most unpopular general election candidates in the history of modern polling. And both of them have embraced being anti-Trump role models. After winning the Libertarian nomination, Johnson wasted no time in attacking Trump.
What can we expect from you in terms of taking him on in the
Well, taking him on the fact that he wants to deport 11 million illegal immigrants, taking him on wanting to build a fence across the border, that's nuts. Taking him on when he says that Mexicans are murderers and rapists, call him out on what is really racist. It's just racist.
Meanwhile, Bill Weld is unloading on Trump's immigration rhetoric by invoking the Holocaust. He recently told the New York Times, quote, "I can hear the glass crunching on Kristallnacht in the ghettos of Warsaw and Vienna when I hear that rhetoric." Honest. Trump's been firing back at Weld, saying, quote, "I don't talk about his alcoholism, so why would he talk about my foolishly perceived fascism?" Okay. And today, Trump took aim at both Johnson and Weld.
Look, Gary Johnson got 1% of the vote last time. I watched that whole situation. It was really pretty disgraceful. I think it's a total fringe deal. I think he's a fringe candidate. You want to know the truth. I look at him and I watch his motions and I watch what he says. I think that he is a fringe candidate. And your second, Weld, is, when you do a little research on that, I think it's not going to be a factor.
Okay. Johnson responded to that attack today. Donald Trump calls me a fringe candidate. Strangely enough, that's what he was called a few months ago. Well, interesting point there. I'm joined now by the Libertarian ticket, Gary Johnson, and his vice presidential running mate, Bill Weld. This is their first joint interview. Gentlemen, congratulations to you, and welcome to Meet the Press Daily.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck. And I think that Trump had it nailed today. I think we've been fringe candidates our whole life. Republicans winning in heavily Democrat states, being fiscally conservative, socially liberal. Hey, he nailed it today. Thanks, Donald.
Well, let me ask you this, Governor Johnson. Do you believe that the best way for you to get to your 15% is just to relentlessly attack Trump? That really this is about being the Republicans that Republicans can stomach for a while if they can't stomach Trump?
Absolutely not. No, I have no intention, neither of us have any intention of attacking Trump or Hillary. But, you know, from a issues standpoint, absolutely. The stuff that he's saying, I think he said 100 things that would have tubed any other candidate, but here he is. I think you hit it right at the top. Look, it's just another day, and it's got Donald Trump's face on it, and what's he said today, and turn the page to tomorrow. There's going to be something else.
For what it's worth, I would agree with Gary that the Donald has our number in what he said today. I mean, we've never bought into this anti-choice, anti-gay, you know, let's have your personal liberties sense of the Republican Party platform. Mm-hmm. We've never bought into spending money like there's no tomorrow so we can hollow out our economy, both abroad and domestically, and hollow out our military. So that puts us right in the center. And I guess if we're in the center, we must be fringe candidates.
Well, be careful with the armadillo. Governors, I want to pause here for a second because we've got a rare opportunity. We have more presidential candidates than we know what to do with today. So, and you get the treat of being able to respond to what Hillary Clinton has to say. Let me pause here. Chris Hayes. Well, Gary Johnson, if you get on that presidential debate stage with Hillary Clinton, how would you have responded to her just now?
Well, when she talks about the VA, I mean, I think there are some real opportunities to privatize the VA and its functions. And, you know, Bill Weld and I plan on running as a team here. I think Bill wanted to weigh in on that one.
Well, I was just going to say, Chuck, that when the GIs came back from World War II, they had two sets of needs, education and health care. And on education, they did probably the most successful program in domestic political history, the GI Bill, which was essentially a voucher program. On health care, they went the other way. Command and control, one size fits all, government operated, that's the only place you have to go. If that had been a voucher program at this, like the education solution, things might be very different now. And it's structural. It's not President Obama's fault. It's no one president's fault. But I don't think... everyone realizes that the desire of the people working at the VA hospitals is the top in the entire country. It is. But very few people would pretend the level of care and the speed of care is the same as in the private sector.
Let me ask you, though, it's interesting you brought up voucher, and frankly, and either one of you want to answer this, and this is fine because it's your ticket, it's your philosophy, but in many cases, it's clear, Governor Johnson, Governor Weld, your mantra is to shrink government. I think I want to say, are there 7 cabinet agencies you would eliminate at this point, Gary Johnson? Do I have it right?
Well, of course.
Let me finish my question here, which is, because Governor Weld brought up vouchers, essentially getting the money directly into the hands of veterans, for instance, letting them choose how to use it. But how do you prevent that style of governing, where essentially you're saying, okay, we're not going to implement the programs, we're going to hand you the money and hope the private sector has the programs? How do you not have the private sector do to that what universities have done with Pell Grants? Oh, great, you're going to get a Pell Grant? Well, then you can come to this $60,000 a year. We're going to raise our tuitions to $60,000 a year because we know we have this free government money coming.
Well, you covered on a lot of topics there.
I know I did, but hey.
Well, look, I'm running to be president of the United States, so at the end of the day, Congress either submits to me and I either sign it or I veto it. So count on me to sign any agency that they want to eliminate. But for a second, let's just talk about the Department of Education. The Department of Education gives every state about 11 cents out of every school dollar that every state spends, but it comes with 15 cents worth of strings attached. So it's really a negative to take federal money. You know, you got to accomplish A, B, C, and D to receive your 11 cents, but it costs you 15 cents to do it. So there's a great example of an agency that really shouldn't exist. I think people think the Department of Education was established under George Washington. It was established under Jimmy Carter. And what value has it had since then? You know, you're talking about education and the high cost of education. What's responsible for that? I'm going to argue that that's guaranteed government student loans. That if we would have never had guaranteed government student loans, I think tuition today would be half of what they currently are.
And going back to health care for a second, health savings accounts, I think, are a great way to empower people to make their own decisions about their health care choices, and to say those should not exist is to say we don't trust people to make decisions about themselves. We think only government can make decisions about what's best for individual people. Man, that is part and parcel of a lot you've heard from government from a long time, and I'm afraid people have gotten brainwashed. And if we treated the delivery of care to the VA with some, equivalent of a health savings account, you don't have to call it a voucher. I know that's a dirty word for a lot of people, but the question is, should government steer or should it row? I've always thought that government should steer and let the people do the rowing for themselves.
Governor Johnson, can you explain to viewers why you got booed for saying you would have voted for the '64 Civil Rights Act at your Libertarian convention?
Well, first of all, when it comes to conventions, I say the same thing regardless of whether I have a Democrat audience, Republican audience, Libertarian audience. So I think I get booed from everybody in every audience. But I think the majority of people are sitting on their hands saying, whoa, there is an adult voice in the room. So,
No, but there is what I was hoping you get at is explain, because this has been a disconnect between some libertarians for a long time. Rand Paul got into some hot water about this. What is it about the '64 Civil Rights Act that some libertarians get upset with? Well, first of all, I would have signed the '64 Civil Rights Act. I don't think we should. I don't think we should condone discrimination in any way whatsoever. But here's the distinction that libertarians make. They make the distinction between government not being able to discriminate, but businesses being able to discriminate, the right of personal choice. Right. And I assume that you believe this, then, that businesses shouldn't be able to do this, whether it's on the health care law or on, obviously, having to do with restaurants and things like that. Well, I just like to apply it to both sides of the aisle. Look, you got the customer. Let's not discriminate against the customer. Is the business owner being done harm? It works both ways. Look, we shouldn't be condoning discrimination in any way whatsoever, and it would require new legislation that would allow discrimination that currently is not allowed for under law. So I don't want to have any part of it. Hey, Governor Weld, one of your successors in Massachusetts, Governor Charlie Baker, announced today that if a bill hits his desk that essentially is designed to protect the rights of transgender, that he would sign that law. Would you? Oh, sure. Go where you're comfortable. Absolutely. I mean, I was the first guy out of the box in 1991 on gay and lesbian issues, 10 years before anybody else would touch it. So count on me. We're the fringe candidates, Chuck. We are really the fringe candidates. Except I'll give you one more news tidbit. All this stuff about Secretary Clinton's use of email accounts and the report that came out and how she might get indicted, I'm not buying. And I used to be head of the criminal division of the Justice Department of the United States. What does that mean, you're not buying? I'm not buying it. You can't indict somebody if there's no evidence of criminal intent, and I don't see any evidence of criminal intent. Finally, Governor Weld, how much money are you spending in this campaign? There seems to be an implication that one of the reasons you're on the ticket is to help either finance or help raise the money. Oh, it'll be raising. It won't be personal financing, I assure you. I would say, I think we have to raise at a minimum tens of millions of dollars to get to the place where we want to be. And if we get momentum and Gary gets over that 15%, I think it could go well above that. And I have to ask this last question, Governor Johnson, because it was an interesting quote that your running mate said about you when I asked him about what qualifies you as commander-in-chief. And Governor Weld, I believe you used the phrase, he has the spirit of the sky? Yeah, I said he and I are outdoors people. Strength from the sky. Yeah, I think I did say something like that, yeah. Well, Governor Johnson, what does that mean to you? I just, bottom line, take it as a compliment. And let me just tell you, Bill Weld has been a role model for me. I wanted to grow up and be like Bill Weld, and he was declared fiscally the most conservative governor in the country. When he served, we overlapped, and I took over the title after he left. So this is beyond my wildest dreams. Bill Weld is my running mate. That goes both ways. Gary Johnson and Bill Weld. I have a feeling this won't be the last time we hear from you. Thank you both for coming on. Appreciate it. Thank you. Let me turn now to California. We are 1 week out from the primary. Hillary Clinton, as you heard her talk with Chris Hayes, canceling some previously scheduled events to set up camp in the Golden State. But thanks to 4 other states holding their